If you've been around the channel long enough, you may remember Thor, my 2010 Volvo XC90 V8 that I lifted, put bigger tires on, but ever since I sold that car, I've been looking for a replacement. There's been a lot of weird choices, and this one that I chose was not really on my list up until a week before I bought it, but lo and behold, this, my 1999 Honda Passport, also known as my Honduzu. Okay, so here's a little rundown on Marley, my 1999 Honda Passport LX. I got this in late August of this year for $1,000. Did not look like this when I first got it, but $1,000. I picked it up with just over 140,000 miles, and currently it's at just over 143,000 miles. Her name is Marley for a few different reasons. The main reason was because of how many Marlboro cigarette containers and the cigarettes themselves that we found in this while we were cleaning it. So it was very disgusting. So this one, well, before you do that, this one, he just did the underside of this seat here.
How the carpet that nobody sits on got that dirty, I don't know. Look
It's
at it.
black.
This is black.
It's black. Wow. Oh my god.
Yo, that is horrible.
That has to be coffee or something. Now be prepared, because this video will be loaded with a lot of Honduzu facts, because there's not really any other videos of these out there. So Honda's first SUV, the Passport, was born as an Isuzu. In the early 90s, Honda and Isuzu, I was about to say Acura, teamed up to make the Passport in '93. Isuzu is actually still around today, just not in the US, but they still are making commercial trucks and also little trucks like this, which, funny enough, use some of the same parts as my truck. All first and second gen Honduzus were built in Isuzu and Subaru's factory. Now it's just a Subaru factory in Lafayette, Indiana. The Passport isn't the only Honduzu that's out there though. Since Honda used the Rodeo for the Passport, Isuzu used the Odyssey to make the Oasis. Even Acura used the Trooper to make the SLX, which was their first luxury SUV, which is, interestingly enough, more uncommon than a Passport.
The all-new Passport from Honda. Not only is it easy to look at,
the second generation of Passport and Rodeo came out in 1998. This one is an LX, but you could choose between an LX and an EX. And the main difference between an LX like mine is the spare tire, and the EX models did not have the spare on the back. It was underneath. In 2000, Honda began to offer leather in an EXL trim of the Passport to make it a little bit more luxurious, to compete with the 4Runner Limited and the plush Grand Cherokees of the time. Now, this was a problem for all Passports and Rodeos, but particularly the second gens were prone to rust. Thankfully, mine doesn't have any, but it was so bad in 2010, Isuzu and Honda recalled about 150,000 Honduzus. Honda seemed to take more action though, because they actually bought back the Passports instead of Isuzu, which I'm not sure what they did. But that is why you'll see less Passports on the road and more Rodeos, because Honda bought all of them back and crushed them. So this little thing is a survivor. Okay, enough nerding about, at least for right now. You may be wondering, because I got this for $1,000, you're wondering what's wrong with it, and let me surprise you. Now, I have to say, this honestly surprised me because, you know, when you buy something cheap like this, you expect it to have problems. But this has been a pretty stout truck. I've only replaced the idle air control valve because my idle on cold starts were a little bit higher than normal. And what else did I have to do? I replaced the serpentine belt because that thing literally disintegrated in my hands when I replaced it. But that's really it, besides oil changes, spark plugs. I just replaced spark plugs. That's it, you know. I'm actually very surprised. But this is the GV-D1W. The longer engine code, I'll take a picture of it. It's up here. It's a 3.2 liter dual overhead cam 24 valve V6. It makes 205 horsepower and 214 pound-feet of torque. Mine is paired to a 4-speed automatic, but you could option these with a 5-speed manual. And something else, another bit of Honduzu trivia, is the Passports got this engine standard, while the Roadios got a base 2.2 liter 4-cylinder as its standard option. These use a part-time 4-wheel drive system, and you use a button on the dash to get in 4 high, and then you use the lever to switch into 4 low. For fuel economy in town, because I've been calculating it by hand for a few, well, since I got it, a few months, I've been getting about 13 in town, and I've gotten 18 to 19 on the highway, which is pretty decent. This one, and I think all of the second-gen Passports and Roadios, have a limited slip rear differential. This one does work. I've tested it, and it uses a Dana 44 rear axle, which you can find in some Jeeps. This engine has been fantastic to me, and I'm gonna run it for as long as I can, but because I think I plan on keeping this for longer than the XC90 and some other things, I'd like to eventually swap in the 3.5 liter V6 that came in the 04 Roadios. I think 04 was the last year of the Rodeo, but it had direct injection, and it was essentially a bored-out version of this, and it made 250 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. I see a lot of people on the Rodeo and Passport pages on Facebook doing this swap, so that's something I'd like to do for more power. Thankfully, like I said, this does not have much rust on it. It looks like the previous owner, well, the first owner, undercoated the frame at one point, so that's a very good thing. Probably in the future I'm gonna sand it down and try to paint it myself. I do have a lot of suspension shit to install. I have new rear shocks, I have ball joints, tie rods, control arms, all kinds of things for the front end. So once I do all the suspension stuff, this thing will be mechanically sorted, and that means we can move on to something else. Bodywork. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do because it's the color of the car. It changes the car completely. And I've painted a few cars before. I'm planning to paint this nori green. I'm finally upgrading, I guess promoting myself from Home Depot spray paint to OEM quality spray paint. I've already painted the front bumper and the front grille myself. Those look really nice, so once the whole thing will be painted in spring, it's gonna look really sharp. Nori green is an OEM Lexus color. If you don't know, I got the idea from a GX460 that I saw in Chicago. I'll post that video up there too. But it'll go really nicely with these bronze wheels that I spray painted myself. I used Bear spray paint from Home Depot, and I'm really shocked how well it turned out. Of course, I'm gonna try to film the painting process with this car. I've tried it with other ones, but I've kind of been, learning new things. But I wanted to talk about my wheel and tire setup. These wheels are not the ones that you'll find on a 99 Passport. These are from the post-refresh 01 to 02 Passports. I just like these more, and I'm more nostalgic to them. As for tires, I found all 4 of these tires for 100 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. They're slightly larger than stock. They're actually the same tire size as my Tacoma stock. They're 265/70 R16s, and they're Ironman all-country ATs. Ironman is an off-brand of Cooper, but 100 bucks for all-terrains? I'm not gonna say no to that. Also, since I'm down here, if you want to put this tire size on yours, the only place that I've noticed rub is on the mud flap, but I like the mud flap, so I'm not gonna take them off, and it doesn't rub that much. Hello. So you may be wondering why I chose this over a 4Runner or a Grand Cherokee. Those are also very good options if you're looking for something cheap, reliable, and bare bones to take you into the wilderness. The Grand Cherokee, simply just because I'm not much of a Jeep guy. I enjoy the WJ, I like the WJ, but I'm not that type of guy, and I'm pretty sure you guys know that. The 3rd gen 4Runner is probably one of my favorite SUVs in existence, but everyone has one, and even we have 4Runner news. I mean, I've kind of spoiled it already, but you don't know what it is yet. But everyone has a 3rd gen 4Runner. I wanted something different, and I really like these because of this tailgate. because you can open it. Now the shocks are bad. I have to order, that actually just reminded me. After I film, I'm gonna go on Amazon and order them. They're like 20 bucks. But I love how this opens. I found this tonneau cover from a 99 Passport in a junkyard. It's hard to find these things in junkyards, but it's actually very versatile. The seats go down, 60-40 split. This thing locks so it doesn't, well, so it doesn't, where are you? This thing locks, so, you know, if it's windy, it won't close on you, which is very handy. And also, I'm like a Vanna White over here again. I leave this open so it doesn't lock itself, but the spare tire, this is cool to me. This is why I've always liked the Passports, and they've always kind of been nostalgic to me. Also, if you have a keen eye, I put a new exhaust tip on it. It did have an exhaust leak when I first got it, and I actually just fixed it after driving it like this for 3 months. So it sounds quiet, it sounds like how a car should sound. However, that actually reminds me, speaking about cars that, well, sounds that cars shouldn't make. Oh, now you're not squeaking? Now you're not squeaking? Usually it squeaks. Let's see if I push on the bumper. What the hell? You're not squeaking now? Everyone that knows me and that knows this truck knows that this thing squeaks like hell. But it's because of, you know, all the suspension things that have to be resolved. But, you know, that'll soon be taken care of. Now, a shortcoming of some of these little trucks is the back seat. And this one is not that bad, actually. There's a lot more room than I anticipated compared to some of the other small trucks that I've been in. Legroom is great. I'm 5'9". I can fit my feet under the seats. The only thing is, with this and a lot of its competition back in the day, the seat bottom is a little low, so my knees are a little bit high. But I'm not gonna complain about menial things like that. But headroom is also really great. I said I'm 5'9". 5'9".
I didn't know they stacked shit that high.
As for amenities in the back, there's not much. There's an ashtray for our kids that smoke, cigarettes or dope, or there's 2 cup holders which are broken over here. I think the thing is broken, but I won't use them. But it's nice that it's there. There's no armrest though. But something that I discovered when I first got this was that the rear seat reclines. So you see how I'm in this position here. The big sweater doesn't help. Now, I'm a little bit farther back. It's actually pretty cool that a 90s, you know, basic truck, oh, it is locked, has amenities like reclining seats, but I wish it had an armrest, but I'm not sitting back here. I'm driving it. Okay, so let's take a drive in Marley, and we can also talk about some business. But I've actually really enjoyed dailying this thing. I got this daily for my daily, which I know sounds funny, but car guys, my fellow car guys, will understand what I mean by that. Now, so this has really been a very good truck to me. And these are pretty underrated because not too many people know about Isuzu, and I feel like even less people know about the Passports. Let's get on it a bit. I mean, that was 70. First, you can hear the wind noise. Now, that wind noise, that brings me to some of the things that I have to do to this. I need to replace all the weather stripping. Not all of it, but I'd like to replace all of the weather stripping because some of it, you know, it's old rubber, it cracks. So I'd like to replace that, make it silent in here. Oh great, there's an accident. What is going on here? I'm going to be illegal. Oh my, a T-boning. Oh my, that Corolla is donezo. Wow. I'd like to replace the whole sound system. I already added, well, I compiled a cart of things that I want to get in the future from Crutchfield. I want to get a new head unit with Apple CarPlay. I want to replace all the speakers in here. There's 4 speakers in mine and 2 tweeters in the doors. I'd also eventually like to replace the seats, but that won't be for a while because these seats are okay. They're manual, they're cloth seats. They were disgusting when I first got this thing. We really had to deep clean this thing. And this is the driver's seat. And that's the passenger seat. Oh my. Wow. In 0.5, it's really, you can see. That's terrible. Get on the power again. The engine is smooth. And it feels just a little bit more awake than a 3rd gen 4Runner. Because those made 183 horsepower and 217 pound-feet of torque. So this feels just a hair, smidge pokier. Honestly, the only time that I feel like this thing could use more power is on the highway, and that's above 70 miles an hour. Besides that, you know, I've actually been fine. Like, this is not the type of vehicle to encourage driving fast. But I'd like to replace the seats eventually, not because they're uncomfortable. I'm pretty comfortable, but they're not supportive, and they could be more comfortable. I'd like to get seats from some junkyard car. I'm thinking maybe a Volvo, but it would just have to match the interior color. But I'd like something with heat, and I'd like leather, and I'd, you know, do something for the rear seat. But heat and leather and something that's more supportive, because as I've been driving this, I've gotten used to rolling around in the seat so much. That's how unsupportive they are. But, you know, it's nothing abnormal for an early 2000s truck. I like that it's bare bones, but there are, of course, a few creature comforts that I'd like to add in. One of the ones that I've already done about halfway is these don't have map lights, so I installed a roof console from early 2000s Subaru Outback from the junkyard. And I did have to cut holes, which, I mean, weren't scary to me because I've done that before. All I have to do now is wire the map lights in, but I'll do that once I install my auto dimming rear view mirror with garage home link. That's all the little fancy things that I want to do to this, and there's a bunch others that I'll probably make videos of if you'd like to see them. The Honduzu community has also been pretty cool. Ooh, a couch? Oh, that looks bad. Free furniture. I always look at free furniture, but I don't want that free furniture. That's from that house in my neighborhood. But the Honduzu community has been very cool. I'd like to, again, see somehow an Acura SLX, because I've never driven a Trooper. I had some time with a manual, I think it was an 02 Rodeo, but it had like 40,000 miles. They still have it by a family friend. And I remember I was like, if I could find a 4-wheel drive Passport, I'd buy it. And I bought one. As much fun as I had filming this, I have to edit this so I can show you, because I've taken too long to film this. I've had this, it's November now? September, October, 3 months. I already knew that. 3 months, 3,000 miles, and I've not shown you. It's kind of on me that I've not shown you, but I'm glad that you've finally been able to meet Marley. There's plenty of Honduzu content coming in the future. Hopefully I can get my hands on an Odyssey, 1st gen Odyssey or Oasis, or on Acura SLX. That's actually something that I'd like to buy for a few months one day. Not anytime soon. I have too many cars, but enough rambling. Thank you for watching and enduring the Honduzu nerdiness of me. This is just what goes on through my head on a normal, it's Wednesday. But I'll see you in the next video. Bye, peeps.